Thank you. Now we're going to have a short panel of people who are going to summarize the day. This is maybe the hardest panel. Dave Brewer is project manager at Jacobs. He comes from an illustrious career at the Air Force, and I saw his head bobbing quite a bit during the Air Force presentation. He was nodding. And Nick Knoke, our Director of Technology, has been watching and wants to make some comments also. So this is a free form, and other people are able to make comments, and anybody online would like to chat or even maybe become a panelist, just send a note and we can promote you to panelists. David, why don't you start?
There we go. Can you hear me okay? All right. Very good. So great agenda. Was encouraged by just all of the comments. Also discouraged in that I'm not nearly as smart as anyone that's in here. What a great group. Daniel, thank you for kicking it off with the UN perspective. I think the that perspective of that, once construction's over, your realization that 85% of cost happen after that. Everything that even the owners talked about, in my own experiences in the Air Force, is everybody gets excited about putting the new facility in place. They really do. They get super excited about that. Everything gets in the papers, elections are won or lost based on those types of things. But they forget that 20 years from now, and that's what the owners are all dealing with in their presentation, and even 30, 40, 50 years from now. So what did we do from the time the ribbon was cut to that given day? And so that perspective was brought out very well, and I appreciated that very much. My perspective is in the asset management world is from the Air Force's perspective, and so Russell Winiger and I go back a few years. And a lot of the things that resonated from each of the presentations were things that I struggled with. I had to stand up in front of the people that held the money within the commands or within the Air Force and convince them that we needed to make these investments. The goodness was that it wasn't me standing up there. It was the mission that I was representing stood up there. And so one of the things that I would encourage each of you to do as you go back out is how do I, as the engineer or the asset manager, the owner of the facility, and GSAs in case they own the facilities, but they don't necessarily contribute directly to the mission, but they make the mission happen. How do I get the person that really is going to be impacted to stand before the committee and make that commitment and explain that if I don't get this, in case of Army, I'll speak to that. If I don't keep the access to ranges that I need to have, how can I train to go to war? If I don't keep the access to ranges for the Navy and the Air Force, and they're not facilities in the sense, but they're assets. If I don't keep access to that, how do I train to be able to go to war? So having the voice come from, or the message come from the mission owner was one of the lessons that I learned over the years. And then the final thought that I have is that while these are all processes and tools and capabilities that we have, and then some days, and Brian, you can relate to it. Some days it feels like it's happening to you, with every phone call and every tasker and every chart that you've got to present. But what I encourage you to do, and it sounds what I heard from many of you, is that you got to work for the way to have the process work for you versus to you. Make it be for you and not to you. And sometimes that's hard to separate, especially when you're the person that's having to hand jam the information in. And then they encourage to hear that a lot of the technology that is coming to the fore is being used. The challenge is those silos within those systems and how to be able to communicate what's happening. And Karen, in your case, what's happening at the installation level, how it ties into the bigger picture. And sometimes those are self-imposed silos because you've had to develop some of those tools yourselves versus the energy of the complex being able to do it. So I think we're moving in that direction. I know that we've been had the good fortune to have contact with some of those new systems that are coming out there. Power BI is certainly one of those items that allows us to assimilate a lot of information in a short period of time. But I think that there are other data analysis platforms that are able to take very disparate outputs from very disparate systems and bring them together into a dashboard that makes sense. So those are my thoughts.
Well, thanks, David. And I liked a lot of what you said, but you lied to us. You said you weren't as smart as anyone else in the room, and that part wasn't true. And I'd just like to follow your lead again and thank Daniel for being here as a representative of the UN and talking about the infrastructure handbook and bringing it back a little bit, at least to me, to the true mission, which is quality of life, which is sustainable development goals seem to be promoting. So just bringing it back, starting there, big picture, that's what we're all after. Somebody earlier today said as asset managers, we really care. And I think that's so true. I think we really care and see the big picture and how all the money and all the things support the quality of life that we all want for ourselves and our communities. So I like that focus. And I think we did an amazing job. I think we should all be very proud of what we did here today, which was make very clear that we have a big problem in this country. And it's not unique to an agency. It is a very broad issue. And we showed it time and time again here with good data. And we also showed that there are solutions, that we are not without tools to work against this problem. And now I think the work is to create that will and to make the who and the why, or just the who really clear. We have to marshal our leaders and ourselves to use the tools on these hard problems that are very widespread. And so I just hope that all of you will leave here today empowered to have more conversations about these things and to see how you can be a part of the solution, whatever organization or agency you're a part of and you represent. Thank you.
I think that represents the goals of the Asset Leadership Network. So thank you for those remarks. And David isn't going to let you have the last word. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to play off of what you and Jim have always said. So, and I'll tip a hat to Jack over Asset Managers Care. But I want to ask if now if we're all feel like we're asset managers, how about we take the perspective that we're asset leaders and that we need to carry it to the next level and do that well.
Excellent.